Can WoW be saved? Now, Xaryu plays a lot of classic, and he doesn't do a lot of retail. He's been doing a lot of Plunderstorm lately, but I think his opinion still matters on WoW's current state, and just seeing how somebody who plays classic, what they want to see out of the next retail expansion. Let's see what Xaryu has to say.
Hey guys, Xaryu here, and today I want to talk about how to fix WoW. And not necessarily that question itself, but examining that question itself. And the reason I've been thinking more and more about this is because Asmongold talked about it a few days ago on stream of how to fix WoW, and talked about 3 easy steps like the 40-man raids, no add-ons, and reducing ability clutter. And since then, a lot of the community...
Yeah, I've been called the scuffed Xaryu for a reason. I haven't been called Zaryu's twin. Thanks, Cadence, for reminding me I'm balding and this man has a beautiful head of hair. Yeah, that's true. Thanks.
...to have been agreeing and disagreeing with them for a variety of reasons. And this video is not necessarily to agree or disagree with his take. Maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. But I'm more talking about, is WoW fixable in general? Like, is this a question that we should be asking, and what should our expectations be when trying to answer this question? And one of the things that I think about right away is like the landscape of WoW, right? The landscape of MMOs in general, right? When somebody likes a game, or when someone likes a certain style of fashion, or when someone likes a certain genre of music, oftentimes it can be very generational and change over a period of time, right?
Sure.
So names, for example, seem to be very generational. My name is Josh. In 2024, less people are naming their kids Josh, right? And in the 40s and 50s and 60s, you see names come and you see names go.
That's true.
Same thing with music, right?
There's trends with
music
names.
Seems to be very cyclical in that regard as well. Same thing with fashion. And I believe the same to be true with game genres, right? I believe, well, why wouldn't it be true, right? Why wouldn't it be true that we see MMOs come into the scene and then be very, very popular for 10 to 15 years, and then leave the gaming scene for a while? And we see things like, this TikTok brain Zoomer style video game become very popularized, like a Fortnite or a Hearthstone.
Yeah. It's definitely generational for sure. I think a lot of, Gen Z, they have problems paying attention to things for very long. So like a long grind of an MMO doesn't appeal to them. Whereas like a very rapid BR, in and out game genre does appeal to them. And you've seen that with certain generations, certain genres of games take off more than others, while other genres have just died off completely. I mean, where the hell did RTSs go? I remember the days when I was growing up and I played Command and Conquer Generals and Red Alert. I never thought there'd be a day where that game genre has pretty much been deleted. Who the hell plays that shit anymore? I don't think anybody does. And so, I mean, I even played the Lord of the Rings RTS. That was a lot of fun. I remember I used to always pick the Rohirrim. I don't even remember what that was called. Battle for Middle-earth, maybe, or something. But it was a good one. Anyways, there was a time when those games were being made all the time, and then it just died off. It wasn't a thing anymore. People say the MMO genre is dead. I disagree with it, personally. I think it's very much alive, and actually a lot of major companies are making MMOs now. I think because the future of MMOs does look bright, and maybe it's because they see the metaverse and everything and thinking MMOs are the future of that. Who knows? But there's been a lot of investment. Amazon's invested heavily in MMOs. Obviously, they have their own, and they've been working really hard on making New World better. Microsoft purchased Blizzard and Blizzard Activision, and trust me, it wasn't just because of Call of Duty, despite people's opinion on that. World of Warcraft was a major part of it. And we've seen, Riot and other companies. Yes, they canceled their MMO recently, but they're still trying to make one. So if MMOs were dead, they wouldn't have the Lord of the Rings RO or ESO. Yeah, there's plenty of MMOs out there that are still thriving, that's for sure. And I saw a comment earlier of somebody saying, well, who said WoW's broken? I wouldn't... If broken triggers you in terms of like, well, WoW is broken, you don't have to say it's broken, but certainly can WoW be better? Maybe you can phrase the question in your mind like that. I think it can be. And I think listening to people's opinions who maybe left the game or don't play retail anymore, it's valuable because they left for a reason. It's good to listen to those reasons, and maybe those reasons can be fixed.
For a while, or a Counter-Strike, or a League of Legends, something where you can press Q, press play, get into the game, have fun, leave, that it respects your time. And I'm not necessarily saying MMOs will never come back. Maybe it'll be cyclical. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe it was more of a one-time thing. But what I am saying is, for whatever reason, our generation right? People born in the 90s, maybe a little earlier.
Yeah, right here.
Seem to really enjoy MMOs, right? The reward structure of grinding something for a very, very long time.
It's the best
and then
feeling.
being rewarded slowly. And it seems like people getting into gaming these days like a different reward structure, right? Get into a game quicker, have fun quicker, exit quicker, rewards quicker.
Yeah, they like
everything
seasonality
quicker, right?
too.
And you see the same thing with content consumption, with YouTube Shorts, Instagram
True.
Reels, TikToks, right? Like it's like, let's get bite-sized versions of content
Yeah.
to the consumer.
Very good
quickly,
take.
right? And it seems to be the same trend with video game genres.
Yeah, I guarantee if you watch like any, if you look at what like this new generation watches, yes, it's YouTube Shorts and all that. Whereas our generation, you'll see an Asmongold video that's like 42 minutes long. I guarantee you none of these younger kids are clicking on that video. If you look at his age demographic, it's probably like all 30, like late 20s max, and then mostly 30s and 40-year-old guys watching his shit for 42 minutes. Like no younger kid is going to do that. They just don't have that attention span. So yes, he's totally right. It's a great take.
And it seems like the MMO style of let's grind for weeks or months or
I'll tell you, my videos tend to be longer, and my age demographic is very much, most of my viewers are like between 32 and 40 years old. Males. Almost entirely.
years on end to get to an end goal and that have that slow satisfaction pay off. All right, so why am I talking about this? I think it's a decent thing to consider what a realistic expectation is for the success of a WoW expansion, for a success of a WoW patch. How should we actually rate success, right? And it's like, for a successful WoW expansion, I think a lot of us are like, well, Wrath of the Lich King was quite successful, and there was 10 to 15 million concurrent subscribers for WoW, and it was like the peak of WoW, and like that's pretty cool, right? Like that's success, right? By some measure of the word success, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, like let's think about this. WoW had a generation of players that loved their game, born in the 90s, little earlier, later, whatever. And now all of us playing the game for the last 15, 20 years, maybe on and off, are in their 30s, 40s.
Right.
Okay.
30s and 40s.
We're
That's
looking
where
at
most
the
of my viewers
landscape
are.
here, very broad, generalized. A lot of us are married, have kids.
True.
Right. Work full-time jobs. Maybe you're still single, but you have bills to pay. You're an adult now.
Yeah.
The free time is different. Your disposable time is less.
Yes, exactly.
Your disposable income might be more, and Blizzard's marketing to that, right? But
yeah, it's totally true. This is a great take. He's totally right. Like Blizzard's marketing trends in terms of like things we hate, like the WoW token or the store or everything. Why does that exist? It exists because of you guys and me and us and our aging demographic. Like look at you guys right now in chat. A lot of you are saying you're in your late 20s, 30s, and 40s. What does that mean? All of you guys have jobs. A lot of you guys are married. A lot of you guys have kids. Like he's saying, which means, what is that? What do those three things mean? It means a lot of you guys have less time to play the game, but more money than you did when you started playing the game. When I started playing, I was 15. I was 15 years old. Now I'm 33. Okay, when I was 15, I had to beg my dad to put his credit card and pay $15 a month so I could play this game. And me and my brother shared one account. We used to log in and watch each other play and rotate onto the game. Like that was how we had it for the longest time. And I had no disposable income, but I had nothing but time. I fucking grinded the shit out of this game. Every time I had a snow day, every weekend, I used to skip out on going out with my friends. Fuck that shit. I want to play some WoW. And I used to grind it out all the time, nonstop. Whereas now, I stream in the mornings. Got about a 4 to 5 hour window a day to play before my workday starts, but I have a lot more money. So like I can buy more expansions. Sure, I can re-up my sub easily. I don't even think about it. But in terms of time to play, that's the main consideration in my head now is like, when do I have the time to play? And I've even said it on stream. I'm like, if I get the legendary, I'm going to buy a WoW token. I'm not going to consider the money that it costs. I don't give a shit. But I got to buy a WoW token. Why? Because I don't have the time to grind out that gold anymore. If I was still 15, the options would be different. I'd be like, I'm going to grind out the gold. I don't have the money to buy that WoW token. So yeah, a lot of the things that we dislike about the game, it's really because of us. It's because of the aging demographic and where we stand in our lives right now.
Your free
Married
time
with kids,
is not the same as it was when you
yeah,
were
you guys are
12,
single, but you
13,
still have
14,
jobs.
16, whatever. right? You have to work now, right? You have other things going on with your life, whether you're married, in a relationship, whatever, kids, right? All of those things. And what that means is if War Within or the next expansion or the next big patch, or say Blizzard takes Asmongold's idea and puts it to the forefront and people enjoy it, it still doesn't necessarily mean we're going to return to those 10 to 15 million Wrath of the Lich King Glory Day moments. Why?
Probably not.
Because people simply don't have the time anymore because we're not children.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a content creator like myself, or someone who maybe is temporarily unemployed or taking time off, or all these different, like there's reasons you can be playing all the time, but for the most part, a lot of people are working, right? Which means they have different priorities, different restraints on their time than they did when they were 14, right? So by definition, those same people can't play the game as much as they did, no matter how good it is.
Very true.
So even if Asmongold's idea or War Within is incredible, it won't be able to retain those same people that quit because they quit for life reasons, different reasons than the game altogether.
Right.
Even if they want to say the game sucks now, it's like, well, you have Classic to play, you have SOD to play, and we'll get into that in a second. But the idea is, even if retail starts to own, all right, maybe it does own right now, but people just don't have that time anymore. So it's like, okay, well, Blizzard needs to attract a new audience, right? They need to attract the new 12-year-olds and the 14-year-olds. But it seems to me that I don't know many 12 or 16-year-olds or 15-year-olds that are playing Minecraft, they're playing Roblox, they're playing Fortnite, they're playing League of Legends, right? They're not playing necessarily World of Warcraft. And maybe some are, but I'm talking by and large here. 99% aren't, for the most part, playing WoW.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you're a 12-year-old watching this video, shout out to you. That's pretty awesome. But I guess my point is, WoW is in a very interesting position where if you want to market to the boomers, right, older people, 30s, 40s, which isn't really boomers, but you get my point. It's like, well, they don't have enough time to play the game anymore. So from Blizzard's perspective, it's like, well, we have to do something about that. And we'll return to that in a second. But if you want to market to the Zoomers as well, the next generation, they're not into the whole delayed gratification reward structure. They want it now.
Yeah.
So if you're Blizzard and you have this product, retail, it's like, okay, well, let's give rewards that respect people's time, because the people that are getting older don't have the time for it, clearly, because they're quitting because they literally just don't have the time to play the game. So let's make things a little bit easier. Let's make leveling faster in retail. Let's get everyone on full geared quicker, and then people like maybe like myself or other OG MMO RPG players are like, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks, Blizzard, that you took away the core part of the RPG, the core part of the experience.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it goes to the reason why he's, that he's talking about. And if you guys remember, like I talked about it not too long ago, that WoW is becoming more seasonal. Like that if you join an expansion now, If you join an expansion now, you basically join the season and you gear out through that season, do the current Mythic Plus, do the current raid, and you're done. You're caught up. Whereas before, if you joined WoW back in Wrath of the Lich King, say, you had to start from the very beginning. The expansion was not seasonal. It was entirely linear, and you had to go along this linear path to be able to get to ICC, kill the Lich King, all that. And how did you do that? You first leveled up, then you did the dungeons, then you did heroic dungeons, you got your badges, grinded that out, then you did the first raid to get that gear so you can go into the second raid and do that, and you kept going like that. You had to go grind through the entirety of the expansion to finally get to the peak moment where you were current with your gear and everything else. Whereas now, it's very much join the current season, do the current shit, and you're caught up. And that's by design, because nobody has time to go through the entire expansion anymore. And that has to go, it goes exactly to what Xaryu is saying, the aging player base, people coming in and out of the game, they just don't have time to grind shit out the way they used to. And I miss the old days, but I understand, it can't be that way. It can't. You'll just alienate the majority of your players who don't start the expansion and grind the whole way through.
And Blizzard's like, well, look, we were trying to respect your time, and we're trying to market to these new Zoomers, this new generation, because if we don't, the game's gonna die, right? So they start advancing retail as a game to keep it alive, right? To attract a new audience and start recapturing the audience that they once had that doesn't have the time to play the game anymore. Well, where does that lead them? It's like, well, the Zoomers actually aren't playing anyway, because there's games that are even quicker than MMOs as a genre, getting back to the point of the video. game genres seem to be generational from my experience.
I think he's right. Yeah.
And if they are generational, MMOs might not be super in right now. Actually, they might be more in now than they were 8 years ago, or like when Fortnite was 2018, 2019, like 5 years ago. They seem to be maybe more in now than then, but they're not like they were in the early 2000s or
True.
mid to late 2000s, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we see the landscape shifting in terms of interest generationally in specific gaming genres. Okay, so it's like, all right, MMOs are not super hot for the youngsters. They're not super appealing to people that are older because they take a lot of time. So retail's kind of caught in between. It's like, well, now you have an option. If you're a boomer, an older gamer that wants WoW how it was, you have Classic Era, you have Wrath, and now you have Season of Discovery, which is an interesting niche. It's like, okay, it's caught somewhere between respecting the player's time with a little bit of quality of life and a little bit of novelty added that's exciting with a twist, but it's also...
It's got that old grindiness
that a lot
too.
of classic players enjoy, and some people will agree or disagree on the nuances of that, whether it's too much like classic or too much like retail. And this video isn't supposed to necessarily go into that. But a Season of Discovery is an interesting point when thinking about this at large.
It's definitely in between.
And it's like, okay, well, we have the initial point again. It's like, what if Blizzard does this? What if Blizzard does that? How do we make WoW great again? How do we fix WoW? How do we fix the game? How do we make this better? And like what my mind automatically goes to, and this isn't necessarily doomer, right? I would call myself more on the side of an optimist, essentially, but I don't think WoW can return to 10 to 15 million subscribers how it was in Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
Because of generational interest. I
right.
don't think young kids are that excited to play MMOs. Right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's like there's different styles of music that people enjoy today.
Yeah, I don't think they can get back to 10 to 12 million. I do agree with that. But at the same time, they don't have to anymore because, at what it is right now, we found out 7 million. They can milk those players for more than they used to get out of 12. You remember, WoW used to be very much like 12 million people sub to WoW. Okay, they're paying the sub and they're paying for the expansion. That was it. It was the only things you paid for in World of Warcraft back then. Now you got the store, you got the WoW token. You're going to have expansions. Supposedly the World Soul Saga is almost going to be like yearly. So you're going to have even quicker, repurchasing of expansions happening at a faster rate. You still have the sub. So those 7 million, they can generate more money out of those guys than they used to out of the 12 million. So I don't think their goal necessarily is to get to 12 again. I do think they want a healthy player base for sure. You do need a bit, you need a good amount of players to keep it going. But in terms of like making money, I bet you they're making more off the 7 now than they did off the 12. I bet you they are.
Than they did in the 70s. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just a thing. Right? And it's the same with names. We have new names today than we did back then. And we have different fashion now. And like you might say, if you're old like me, it's like, oh man, these youngsters, their music sucks, so their fashion sucks, and they should return to that. And maybe we can talk, maybe that is true, and maybe that's a whole different discussion, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is things change. Players want different stuff. And WoW is, by definition, an MMO, and that can't change. No. So no matter how good of a patch, no matter how good of an expansion, you're not going to recapture the people in their 30s and 40s for too long. Maybe they can take 2 weeks off work. Maybe they can push their responsibilities for a little bit and get their wife off their tail or their husband or whatever it
True.
is. But eventually life's going to continue. And they won't be able to push it forever. And then they'll end up quitting, right? Or playing less and less because they don't have the time.
Yeah.
And then they'll think, oh, WoW was so much better back then. And then the new generation isn't necessarily playing anyways because they're playing like Fortnite or whatever. And then people say, oh, well, WoW sucks. And WoW needs to do this. And WoW needs to do that. And maybe that's true. Maybe what they're saying is true. Maybe what Asmongold's saying is true. But I want to put some context on this and have people understand that even if what Asmongold's saying is true, even if Blizzard launches the best patch next year, later this year with War Within, I don't think Zoomers are going to be playing. And even if the Boomers want to play, they can't necessarily hide from life for too long and play it forever, right? They can play it sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if
sometimes, but not all the time. It seems like he doesn't think people have free time on the weeks they work. No, I don't think that's what he's saying. I mean, look at me, the way I play, right? I mean, I work a 9 to 5 job, but I wake up like a fucking degenerate at 4:30 in the morning, and I play from like 5 until 8 o'clock in the morning, right? Like that's my window of playtime. I enjoy playing the game, so I wake up and I play and I stream and I like talking to you guys. But I can't play the way I used to. Like 15-year-old Sam, he'll outgrind me in a second. Oh my God, 15-year-old Sam used to play and put in 10, 12-hour days into WoW. I was nonstop. I was all the time playing this game. I loved it. And I still love it now. But I think a lot of people, they get grinded into life. Things happen. And that window shrinks. And maybe that desire to stay up to date with the gear and everything else and all that stuff, they feel like they're falling behind. So then they just end up unsubbing. And then maybe they blame the game and saying, oh, the game sucks. That's why I unsubbed. It might not be the case. I have a wife, 2 kids, work full time, deal with my kids, my wife, my works and evenings, and I game from like 2 to 3 hours every day. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people who play WoW right now sit. I do. But everyone's got different, different life situations. And, Adam, Jar, you're like me. You've kind of made playing WoW still a priority in your life a little bit. Like you still want to do it, right? That still matters to you. So you've made time in your day to do that. But the game has to kind of cater to that, right? The game cannot retain you if it's a 15-hour grind, and that's the only way you're going to be able to do current content. The game has changed to kind of accommodate people like me and you, Adam. And he's talking about that. I think he's getting to that, is that, the game might not suck, but it's had to change because the people who play the game change. And you're not going to really add new players on the back end necessarily because that generation's not into MMOs. Now, are you going to change it to cater to the new guys, to cater to the younger kids? That's a decision I'm sure they talk about in Blizzard all the time. But I think they're doing the right thing by saying, no, we've got our aging demographic. They kind of fit what we do. Maybe we can do things like Plunder Storm to interest younger people. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep making the game more accessible and easier to grind. If you play 5 to 8, you would already be playing. True. Yeah. When I'm not working, I'm at home playing WoW. Yeah, that's when you're not working, right? There was a time we didn't have to work. But no, I agree with a lot of what he's saying.
If they want it to respect people's time because they're getting older, then you're going to have the side of the MMO landscape that doesn't like that wants the delayed gratification. Maybe someone like myself who has been playing more classic in the last year or so. It's like that is why I like to play an MMO. So you have this community that's now split, right? It's like, well, I want to respect my time, so I'll play retail so I can get into things quicker. Or I want things how they used to be because I used to play, like this when I was growing up, right?
True.
And we're kind of caught in the middle, and Blizzard's kind of caught in the middle, I think. And I think they're struggling to see who should we listen to, right? It's a good problem to have because you have a massive fan base of people that love your IP, but it's like, who should we listen to? Should we make the game more optimized for the next generation, or should we try to just cater to the boomers that have kind of always enjoyed our game? Should we try or should we try a little bit of both, right? And maybe that's kind of what they're messing on with Season of Discovery. And hey, this video isn't to necessarily come down on MMOs as a genre. It's my favorite genre by a long shot. I hope, just like names that come back or music that comes back or some of these things, I hope MMOs come back. My son is a few months old. I would love to see him, growing up in a generation where MMOs are cool again, right? Where MMOs are exciting to play again, and that's what everyone likes to do and play. Like in the early 2000s, like RuneScape and Guild Wars and WoW and all these different games, and it's like, what a fun thing to do and play online, right? But yeah, the landscape does seem to be changing. Different games are popular than before. So I guess for me, to wrap up the video, it's not necessarily about how to fix WoW. It's coming to the realization that you can only fix it so much with the landscape and the confines that we actually live within.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like, even if the patch owns, we still have to keep in mind the Zoomers aren't playing and the Boomers have limited time. Period. The end. So there's a cap on what can actually be obtainable and be possible. People are going
True.
to play
Very
new
true.
patches for a few weeks because they can get the time off work, or they can justify it for a little bit and even maybe enjoy it a lot. Maybe it's even pretty darn fun. But then they're going to probably quit, right? And hey, this isn't to say Blizzard couldn't do better, because of course they could, right? But yeah, I think keeping our expectations in line with what the confines actually can like hold within it, right? It's like, this is impossible to have 10 to 15 million concurrent users based on generational trends, period. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and start a discussion in the comments whether you guys agree or disagree with what I'm saying completely. Have a good one.
I think I agree with like almost everything he said in this video. I totally do. And I see a lot of you guys kind of rebutting it in the chat. When WoW really does die, what a game are they going to say has been dying for 18 years? WoW is not dying. Yeah, I totally, all the doomsayers and that saying, oh, WoW is dying, and what are we, oh, it's not dying. It's fine. It's just different. That's all it is. It's just changing. Changing with its changing player base. Its aging player base. We're still the same people. We're just playing at different times and playing in a different way. When you didn't work, you still went to school. So that time was consumed anyway. The only thing that's changed is you added new people to your life. Yeah, I mean, but no, I still feel like I had way more time to play when I was a kid. I mean, there's no way. I'll tell you, the way I played when I was 15 is, yes, I had school, and I had, you know, things to do like studying and all that shit, of course. But when I was 15, I could easily pull like a fucking 13-hour day on a Saturday just playing this game. No responsibility, never had to get up, never had to worry about anything else. No, I do have other things going on in my life now. So yeah, no, playing the game the way I would like to play it, or the way I did when I was 15, it's not possible. I can't do that anymore. But I do still play a lot, and I enjoy playing, and I've made time to play. Right, I've scheduled the time in my schedule, because now I have a schedule. Back then it was just school. That was the only thing that blocked out time for me. Other than that, it was erratic. I could do whatever the hell I wanted. Now, no, my time is not all my time. I gotta make my time to play this game. But, and I think Blizzard's done a decent job evolving the game to do that. I think his main point is is that even if the War Within is the best expansion ever made, right? It can't necessarily get to 12 million subscribers. I don't think that's a way to judge whether the game is still alive or dying. You know, and that's the main point of the video, is that judging the game based on how many people are playing or what they're doing is not a good way to do it, because if you're comparing it to the past, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. What is going to happen is the MMO genre can continue on the way it is, and hey, maybe it's, like he said, it's cyclical. Maybe one day my 6-year-old and my 5-year-old will be playing this game the way that I played it back in the 2000s, because MMOs come back hardcore and everyone's in it again, and all these younger kids are in it again. So it could happen. But to look at the War Within and say, oh, it's not a success because subscriber numbers are not at 15 million, again, I think that's kind of ridiculous. So I think it's a good video. Great video. I like Xaryu's take on it.